I don't know why I'm feeling a little sassy today, but I am. Hi, hello, how are you? My name is Sara from Sara's Reading Nook, and I have my microphone here again. So, when I film at night, I actually really like to use the sky. And hopefully there's no cat hair, but if there is cat hair on it, spoiler alert, I have a cat. Okay, so today's video, what are we going to talk about? Well, we are going to talk about what I have wanted to talk about this entire time and what I am really excited about talking about. And the topic is, what are my bookish goals? That's right. We are talking about bookish goals today. And you're probably like, Sara, we're talking about it today. We've been talking about it this entire time. Well, you're right. Anyhow, this video is specifically going to be going over what my bookish goals are for 2021, because I have some. And then after talking about what my bookish goals actually are, I'm going to talk about how to track them. And then I'm going to talk to you about why it is important to track goals, but also to track progress and not simply just completion. And I will tell you why. A major issue that I see come up again and again is this idea that we have to place all of our goals into a nice checklist and tick them off one by one. But I think that might force some limits and constraints, and also an emphasis on completing our goals versus benefiting from them in the first place and extracting useful stuff. So yeah, we're going to talk about a comprehensive method because I like to write lots of notes, because that's how I am. So let's start with the first section, my 2021 bookish goals. Now we're going to have a little bit of science-y talk, because I don't really know any other language. We're going to break them down into quantitative versus qualitative goals. So quantitative, what does that mean? Well, if you break it down, quantity. So numerical values. So there are very popular goals that I see again and again every single year, and they are goals that can have a numerical value assigned to them. Okay, so what is an example of that? When people say that they want to read X amount of books per year, X amount of fiction books, X amount of whatever, those are all numerical values. And how we track numerical values can differ from how we look at qualitative stuff. So now qualitative, now we're getting into what the actual quality is of our reading. What are some objective measures and observations that we can abstract from them? What are some qualitative goals, some observations, feelings, etc.? All of the things that you would write down in a journal. So for instance, you may want to track what books made you cry this year, or what books made you laugh. Or you may want to write down broad observations of your books, what books inspired you, etc., etc. And so with that little breakdown in mind, we are going to go over what my goals actually are. So I have 3 major quantitative goals, numerical goals. Okay, so my first goal is the same as last year. I want to read at least 52 books a year. I think that is a nice pace, something achievable, and something that gives me, enough substance to talk about with you all. Next, I want to read at least 1 book per week. Now, you're probably saying, Sara, 52 books a year. That is a book a week. But that's not how I'm tracking this goal. At the end of each week, I literally want to see how many books I read. And if I read at least 1, I want to see how many times I can consistently do that. So, I don't know why I'm feeling a little sassy today, but I am. But yeah, I want to see if I am reading 1 book a week. The drive behind that is really, I want to be consistent. I want to be a consistent reader. I want to develop the consistency muscle. Ooh, okay. Number 3 is that I want to read every book club selection for the Top Shelf Society. So we read a book a month. And so that's up to 1 book a month for the year. So that's up to 12 books. But we might change it. I don't know. But at the rate that we're going, the Top Shelf Society, which the information for our book club is down below, that's just what I want to do. I want to read every one of our books. Now let's talk about something that interests me even a bit more, which are my qualitative goals. So this point is the driving force behind my reading this year. My number 1 qualitative goal is to read diversely in 2021. Now every year with my reading, I deliberately try to look for diverse reading material, looking at a range of topics, a range of author demographics, character demographics, nonfiction material, etc. But I never really tracked it or defined it in any kind of way. I just kind of went through my reading year and I would specifically just look for books about individuals that had different backgrounds than myself. So this year I was watching a live show, and this was by Ashley from Bookish Realm. Huge fan. And so she had a video that was called Reading Diversely, Let's Chat. And it was discussing how to set realistic goals for consistently reading throughout 2021. There were other co-hosts, Mara from Books Like Woe, Josh from Josh's Book Voyage, Bree from Locked Booktition, Marina's from My Name is Marina's, Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany. So that live, it just kind of inspired me to look and see if I actually do read diversely. And so I wanted to really see if I could find a definition of what reading diversely even really means. So I stumbled upon, I think after going to Ashley's blog or something along those lines, I stumbled upon the website We Need Diverse Books. All of the information is going to be in a blog post, so I'll have links for you there. So We Need Diverse Books is a nonprofit, and they provided a definition of what diverse reading actually is, or what diversity is. So the recognition of diverse experiences, such as LGBTQIA, Indigenous, POC, gender diversity, people with disabilities, and ethnic, cultural, and religious minorities. So just even looking at that definition, there were gaps that I could improve on, for sure. A breakdown of LGBTQIA is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer and or questioning, intersex, asexual, or ally. So there are definitely categories within that I am seeking to find books, specifically intersex and asexual. And for each one of the categories, I also looked up some readathons that I may or may not participate in, but I hope to take advantage of some readathons this year. So Little Book Owl, I believe her website is called. She has like so many readathons on her page. And again, I will link it in my blog post. But there are 2 readathons going on in June/July, which is the LGBT Pride Summer, and December, which is Queer Lit Readathon. Then the next category was Indigenous. Now, I didn't participate in Indigathon in 2020, but I would like to in 2021. I believe that was held in December. And in June, it is National Indigenous History Month. So I hope to sort of see if there are any Indigenous specific readathons. And for those of you interested in reading about Canada with an emphasis on Indigenous literature, I would definitely recommend to participate in the Read-A-thon hosted by Books and Lala. So that was hosted last summer, I believe. The next category is People of Color / Persons of Color, POC. And there are several readathons that are put on throughout the year. In January, in February, there is Biracial Awareness Month, which is actually this month, and I didn't know that before. February is Black History Month. There is the Black Lit Challenge in February. Some TBA readathons are the Blackathon, Latin X-a-thon, Asian Readathon, and in May it is Asian/Pacific Islander Month. Again, hoping to take advantage of some of those readathons throughout the year. The next category is gender diversity, and there is a transathon, which should be happening sometime this year, but it is still TBA. The next category is people with disabilities. So this includes sensory, cognitive, chronic conditions, mental illnesses. So a readathon, April is the Disability Readathon, and August is Mental Health Awareness Month. And September, I believe, is Physical Disability Awareness Month. So the final category is ethnic, cultural, and religious minorities. So there are some that I mentioned already that will apply in this area. But in April, it is Sikh Heritage Month. And in October, it is Latin American Heritage Month. So those are some months to look out for in reading. And of course, this is definitely not a comprehensive list. If you want a comprehensive list of the different readathons throughout the year, then definitely check out Little Book Owl. The reason that I want to make sure that I am reading diversely is because I find that it's really important to do. So I think my biggest point in this is that diverse books and diverse authors, there are amazing diverse books. So goal number 2 is that I want to learn more about several topics. So I want to learn more about science, like astrophysics, mathematics, the history of medicine, and representation in science. And I'm actually reading Letters from an Astrophysicist by Neil deGrasse Tyson. And he has some excellent commentary on representation in science. And I'm really enjoying that book right now. I want to learn more about Portugal. So my entire family is from Portugal. I want to get better at the language. And I also want to learn a little bit more about the history. And also I want to try and read some Portuguese authors. So if you have any, please write them below. And so my third goal is to consistently track qualitative information of books as I read them. So for example, the moods, the pace, the genres, diverse categories as well. And number 4, I want to consistently apply these qualitative goals and markers when I discuss and review books. So really this whole qualitative section, assuming I can meet my quantitative goals, these are really so I can add some sort of value to the conversation, whether it be on Bookstagram, on BookTube, like with my friends, etc. Like I really want to focus on those qualitative measures. And now we're going to talk about how we actually track these goals. So how am I going to track them in 2021? So the quantitative goals are actually fairly simple to track. And I will be using the Storygraph for that to see how many books I actually read per year. I may set a reading challenge for the 1 book a week. And if I do, I'll let you know and I'll link you to the Storygraph challenge because you can make challenges for people on the Storygraph. And I'm going to talk about more about the Storygraph later on. So excited. And reading every book club selection, I am probably going to have an Excel spreadsheet so that I can track those goals. And so for all of these quantitative goals, I want to either meet or exceed them. And now, how am I going to track my qualitative goals? Well, so for reading diversely, for learning more about various topics and subjects, and for tracking qualitative information as I read them, that will be in an Excel spreadsheet. So it will include the various markers that I want to track. And I also want to use some sort of notebook through a reading journal. And I've actually really liked using my blog to help sort of frame what I'm doing for the entire year. I know very few people read it, pretty much me and Olivia. I really like writing it down and having a space dedicated towards my reading for the year. But also a way to track some of this qualitative information such as the mood, the pace, the genre, whether it's nonfiction, etc., etc. The Storygraph actually tracks that for you, and you can look back at your statistics at the end of the year and see how you're doing. Another reason why I like the Storygraph. And then for number 4, consistently apply these goals and markers when discussing and reviewing books. I may include it in my Excel spreadsheet, and then I'll have some way of actually determining whether or not I'm meeting these goals. Okay, and so the final section here is, will I simply include a checklist to track if I've completed my goals? So I've listed 3 quantitative and 4 qualitative goals. So this is a leading question, which, if you don't know what that means, I will not simply include a checklist to track completion. Not quite. Like, I have some notes on this. I'm just gonna talk everyone through this. Every time around this year, there are lots of very entertaining videos where someone will go over what their goals were for the previous year and whether or not they met them. And it's sort of almost looked at as a whole as whether or not we passed or we failed. Now, in my humble opinion, I don't think that's why we should set goals in the first place. And I'll tell you why. I know. I think that the message along the way gets sort of lost. So say, for instance, you want to read 52 books a year, but you read, for instance, 26. So you read half of the books that you want to read. I think it's important to not lose perspective as to why we make those goals in the first place. So why do you want to actually read 52 books a year? Does it mean that you are a better person, a better reader, a better... Qu'est-ce que c'est? Je ne sais pas. I think that there is a lot of value in using some sort of scale to see, how far we actually got to our goals. So I am tracking progress this year for all of them. For each of my qualitative goals and quantitative goals, I am going to use a scale of 1 to 11. Now, 1 is going to be, I didn't even attempt the goal. 2 to 5 is going to be, I made some progress toward the goal and I tried towards it. Now, 6 to 9 is going to be me making significant progress to my goal. 10 is I met the goal, and 11 is I exceeded it. So let's say I read 54 books, then I would get an 11 because I met and exceeded my goal. Let's say I read 26, then I get 5 points because I made quite a bit of progress towards my goal, but I didn't complete it. And then I think it will be important to reflect on how making progress towards my goal affected my reading. Because at the end of the day, my overall goal with reading every single year is to simply gain more knowledge and perspective and be better equipped to face the world. So yeah, those are my bookish goals. And I hope that this gives some sort of perspective into why goal setting is important and why it is actually more nuanced than we think. Let me know below if you have made bookish goals for this year and perhaps what they were. I would love to hear from you. This entire video is in blog format and I will include the blog link below. And yeah, I hope that this was helpful. For Bookish Planuary, we have made, I believe, 6 or 7 prior videos. So you can look for those in the playlist, which I will have linked below. And yeah, let me know how you are liking Bookish Planuary. There's just 1 week of it left. It's been a lot of fun making these videos, so thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to give a like and also to subscribe. That's everything for today. Bye!